Perfect.
Hey everybody, Steven here. Today I have an unboxing video for the MSI 34-inch ultrawide monitor. This is the 144Hz panel here. So this is the MPG341CQR. They always make these so that they're a mouthful with the naming here, but this is the 34-inch ultra-wide monitor, like I mentioned. So it's 3440 by 1440p. We have the 144Hz panel. I've used the Asus 34-inch ultra-wide from a couple of years ago, which had the 100Hz. I've reviewed the Scepter monitor that was the 35-inch ultra-wide 100Hz panel on here as well. So excited to try this for the one specific reason, which is the 144Hz. So going from the 100 up to the 144 with an ultra-wide monitor is something I'm really excited to do. Now, I am going to be kind of generally talking about this in the unboxing video, but I'm not going to get incredibly detailed. I'm going to put a link for Hardware Unboxed if you guys want to get into really detailed specs. And I mean, they do like color testing and all that other stuff. And I was looking at this and then an LG 34-inch ultra-wide monitor, which is about $160 more. And this one, I mean, it was kind of toe-to-toe with that, but this one had the better contrast ratio, so this is what I went with. So let's go ahead and get this thing unboxed. I had to pull the camera back again because this box is so big here, and I have never used an MSI monitor. I've used MSI GPUs, and honestly, most of the time my motherboard is MSI, which is what I have in this rig right here. And I'm curious to see how the RTX 2080 Ti handles this. So let's get this thing opened up here. Interesting, it actually has, I think this is like the cord management thing for your mouse. It has a webcam built into it as well, which I already have my own webcam, so I don't know how well or how much I'll be using that. We have DP cable, HDMI. I'm assuming it's HDMI 2.0 and DP 1.4. So it has two USB extending ports on it, and then we have our power cable. It looks like we have an audio cable, and then our manual and warranty VESA mount screws if you want to do that. Ooh, and then I think we get into the stand here. Oh. Okay, now the fun part. Let's slide this thing out. This always makes me nervous. Because the last thing you want to do is get this in and then drop it. And now you've spent all that money and you have a busted panel. Okay. So here's the base, the stand. The look, very similar to the Asus monitor, the PG34QU or whatever it was called that I actually reviewed on this channel, with the copper base here. And then we have the neck or the arm right here. Cable management on the bottom that you can slide through. Right. This is definitely a gaming monitor in terms of the aesthetics of it too. There it is. You can see the webcam down at the bottom. I mean, size comparison here. So I originally had the Asus, and it went from the ultrawide back down to 16:9 because, and I've mentioned it before in other videos, YouTube doesn't support in-screen annotations with 21:9 aspect ratio videos, meaning I can't put, hey, here are other videos that you may like at the end of my video. The subscribe to the channel link, all these other things. So I was like, I'm gonna go back. And then I just realized between time management, trying to pump out content, I don't do that as often as I should. But because of that, I want to go back to the ultra wide. I love ultra wide monitors, and hopefully that actually has support here in the next couple months, years, potentially. We'll see with that. So I'm going to get this thing set up, and we'll kind of do the swap out. We'll do some B-roll with it, and then we'll showcase some games, and then I'll talk about my initial impressions with everything.
So let's cover these specs again. This is a 34-inch 1440p ultrawide monitor, so it has a 21:9 aspect ratio versus a normal 16:9. It's a VA panel with a 1 millisecond response time and 144 Hz refresh rate, which has become more of a standard for me personally and is nice to have on an ultrawide versus the common 100 or 120 Hz. This has an 1800R curve, which at this size feels more natural and is great with viewing angles. It has 1.07 billion display colors and has a 3000:1 contrast ratio. This covers 105% of the sRGB scale and 84% of the DCI-P3 color gamut. So it's great for gaming, but not so much for video or photo editing, but I highly doubt a movie editor for Hollywood is going to be using this monitor. It does have HDR, but it's only 400 nits, which isn't true HDR, and I won't be messing with that personally because I always have problems with certain games looking good and others looking bad. Plus the amount of time I end up spending trying to make it look good only to turn around and need to change it for another game is frustrating, so I'll wait until it's more common in games, and 1000 nits is the standard. This features one DP 1.4 port, two HDMI 2.0 ports, and a USB Type-C port which you can use to connect a laptop or peripheral to this monitor to use it as a screen, taking advantage of the picture-in-picture or picture-by-picture if you want. And I misspoke earlier because it actually has 3 USB ports, not 2, which I was excited to see because I'm always in need of extra USB ports. This has one USB 3.1 port on the back and 2 USB 2.0 ports on the side, which also has the mic and headphone jacks also. There's a combo jack on the back of this monitor so you can connect it directly to your PC also, and there's a cable in the box so you don't have to buy one. This has a height, tilt, and swivel adjustable stand with a cable management port on the bottom to run everything through and make your setup look clean, or you can VESA mount this if you want also. The menu button is a single radial dial, which I like over multiple buttons, and the menu is simple and easy to navigate. I personally like using the OSD software though, which allows you to control everything and set up picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture. Coloring looks great out of the box, and it actually has decent presets. The monitor is G-Sync compatible as well, and I haven't noticed any issues yet when playing games, although I don't notice a big difference personally between G-Sync and FreeSync, which I think is largely due to having a 2080 Ti, so there aren't huge fluctuations in my FPS to cause issues. Which brings me to gaming, and gaming on this has been a blast. I always enjoy gaming on an ultra-wide as long as my GPU can handle it. I'm not noticing any ghosting, there's no artifacts, there's no screen tearing. It's been a very, very smooth experience so far. But with this being a 144 Hz panel and having a 2080 Ti, I wasn't expecting to hit that 144 Hz in most AAA games. So this is more about future proofing and having a smooth desktop experience for day-to-day tasks and not just gaming. And for me personally, 1440p at 144 Hz seems to be the perfect sweet spot between performance and graphics. Keep in mind, if you're going from a 16:9 monitor to this, you will experience a drop in FPS for higher end games. Doom is the one AAA game that I can actually hit the 144 Hz and plays incredibly smooth compared to the 100 Hz ultrawide Scepter I just got done reviewing. And in this case, it is quite noticeable going from the 100 Hz to the 144 on an ultrawide. Other games such as Red Dead Redemption 2 took a hit of about 10 to 15 FPS on ultra settings and usually sits between 60 to 80 FPS on average. But I've also tried on my regular 16:9 monitor, switching that over to just 1080p, and I still can't hit 144 Hz. So I think part of that has to do with just the game itself. So an average of 60 to 80 on an ultra-wide in 1440p, it still plays incredibly smooth, but I think it's going to be a while before we hit that 144 with that game. Horizon Zero Dawn, on the other hand, doesn't quite seem optimized for PC just yet, and is having problems for some people, but ran decently for me and consistently held 60 FPS. I'm hoping the new NVIDIA 3000 series cards will be a big jump here, which is one of the reasons I felt comfortable buying this monitor, knowing I probably won't hit the 144Hz in most games right now. Looks like I'm going to have to drop about $1,400, which is just speculation, on the pricing for the 3080 Ti, I suppose. Overall though, my initial impressions are great, and although I won't be using some of the extras like the mouse wire holder and the webcam holder, I do like that they include it. The built-in webcam on the other hand is better than I thought, so let's go ahead and take a quick look. Alright, so this is going to be the test of the webcam, and I'm using XSplit. I'm using an unlicensed version here, so that you're going to see the watermark with this, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the quality of this. It's not something that you can stretch out the image a great deal, because then it's going to look very pixelated, but if you tinker around with the settings, the brightness and the contrast, it looks pretty good with this. And it's a feature I don't think everybody's going to use, but for those that do streaming and maybe they don't want to mess with buying a webcam, or they don't want to attach theirs, whatever it may be, this actually is there, and they didn't have to put this there. So like I said, pleasantly surprised. I also like the fact too that where it's located allows me to adjust the monitor height and the tilt and all of that in a better manner than if it's actually up at the top, which is where I usually put my Logitech C922 webcam. And with this also, I don't like messing with tripods or anything like that. I've used the DSLR camera with an attachment before, and it works okay, but that's just a bunch of stuff to get set up. So the fact that this is easy, I just pulled up XSplit. I said, hey, pull up the HD camera. I didn't have to download any software. Chroma Cam clicked in, and I was good to go with this. So something that, like I said, they didn't have to add, but it's a nice feature. I just don't think everybody's going to take advantage of it. If you're doing Zoom meetings or anything like that, though, this is going to be something that you can take advantage of as well. Now, they do have the bracket that you can actually put a camera or a webcam on and attach it to the top with this. It won't support a full body DSLR camera, though, something to keep in mind, which I don't think you'd want to do anyways. It's going to be so heavy. I'd be worried that it's going to fall or break my monitor with this. But if you do have a smaller form factor camera, it's actually going to work with that. Or like I said, just a regular webcam. So this was the test for the webcam that's built into the monitor here. The aesthetics are definitely for gamers and makes a great addition to my setup. And you can tell this through the lighting on the front and the back. The lighting on the front you can actually change based off of your location to display the weather, which I doubt I'd actually use that. But in game, you can actually use it for health bar stuff, and I'm still working on trying to get that set up. Doesn't seem quite as straightforward as I was hoping. But I do want to say that the OSD software from MSI is really easy to use. Just looking at everything that you can actually tinker with in here, your main stuff is going to be there, right? Brightness, contrast, sharpness, but you also get to turn on and off night vision. You can change the color temperature. You can turn on the screen assistance. You can actually enhance the image if you want to. Changing the screen size, the response time, which by the way, with the response time being the 1 millisecond, you have to turn it on to the fastest with this. You get to turn on HDR. You can turn adaptive sync on, zero latency, HDCR, eye saver, anti-motion blur. This is where you're going to tinker with the picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture. There's even an alarm clock. I don't think I would actually mess with that. You get to turn on the FPS counter. So like I said, a lot of things in here that you get to mess with, which was awesome. And I like using this over the actual menu that's built into the screen. The one that's built in is fine. This is just a little bit easier to navigate, and I like when companies do that, which seems pretty standard at this point. And so as I've mentioned multiple times, overall my initial impressions are very, very good with this monitor, but the last thing I do want to talk about is going to be the price. So I'm in the US, so this is going to be USD with this, but it's $799, and that's pretty steep, and after tax it ends up being about $860. I just ordered the AOC monitor with almost the exact same specs for $460 after tax. So you're talking about a $400 difference. I'm actually excited to see the difference between the two and kind of do a direct comparison, but at that price point, if you can actually find the AOC monitor, it's really hard to find, but if you can get that, you could almost get two for the exact same price. And then you could have two 34-inch monitors kind of stacked side to side if you wanted to with this. So that's also something that I think is going to put this outside of most people's price bracket, is just it's more expensive. Now, if you're going to compare this to the LG or the Alienware that has similar specs and you're looking to spend on those about another $150 to $200, maybe even closer to $300, depending on whether or not you're finding those at a sale. And some of those are going to have differences that I won't actually test on this channel, which is going to come down to what is the actual color accuracy, what is the actual response time with this. And so those are going to obviously play a big factor in what you're going to go for. And I think at that point, if you're watching this video, if you're even considering buying one of these monitors, you're probably an enthusiast. So at that point, it's really going to boil down to what is going to feel right for you, because the last thing you want to have is buyer's remorse when you're shelling out $900, $1,000, $1,200 for one of these high-end monitors. So that is going to wrap this video up, everybody. I'm going to have a link for this in the description so you guys can check this out for yourself. Check back soon for the AOC unboxing, and then hopefully down the road the review for that. And of course, I'll be doing a comparison between these two monitors and looking at the difference between these two very different price points with this. If you guys have any questions about the monitor, feel free to ask me in the comment section. If you guys like the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. Thanks so much for watching.